our channel. This is InfoPod, the pod to connect you with the world of knowledge, motivation, and creativity. Business is something that we often hear about, but very few of us have the desire to dive deep into it. For today's podcast, we have Gokul, an aspiring entrepreneur, to share his knowledge with all of us. Welcome, Gokul.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, Gokul, on your perspective, what is business?
Well, to stick with the definition, business actually refers to an occupation in which people generally engage themselves in activities related to production, sales of goods and services, and purchase with a view of actually earning profits. So they basically end up being in the industry side or commerce side.
Okay. Despite having a good paying job and promising benefits, what is the need to start a business where they have to go out of their comfort zone and face challenges?
Growth doesn't happen within the comfort zone. So a person starting a business needs to consider a few reasons as to why is it worth the challenges and hardships faced during the process. So the reasons basically are freedom, financial independence, time efficiency, and tax efficiency. So this
Mm.
coming to the freedom, the secret to happiness is freedom. And the secret to freedom is actually courage. So freedom is the ultimate objective of starting a business. Now an employee getting locked up in hours of work in a job without having enough time to spend for himself and his family is actually cruel, right?
But normally, people don't consider that as a loss of freedom, right?
No, just because we go with the crowd, we don't think that issues that are standing out as an issue itself. So
Okay.
that is what happening in reality. So it's actually a metaphor of a caged bird. Now we think caged bird sings, while indeed it cries. So insufficient salary accompanied with heavy loads of work can actually make a person financially broken, mentally used, and physically exhausted.
True.
So the lack of freedom to lead a healthy life is because of the docile nature of human beings. So the docile nature actually results from the underconfidence over their financial position. So they
Okay.
surrender themselves and their freedom to money. So they work overtime to even earn a little more and lose their health and freedom over the years. There are, of course, promotions and incentives, but promotion and incentives are basically like a bait that attracts a hungry fish.
Oh,
Whereas business actually doesn't require presence after it becomes stable over the years. You can employ someone much smarter than you, and you can watch it grow. So you have the freedom to take decisions, each and every aspect, say regarding your work and life. Whereas an employee actually depends on his employer for decisions, say related to work or vacations or to even plan outings. So they basically work 49 years a week. 49 weeks a year. Sorry. So they work 49 weeks a year to go for a 3-week vacation. So the decision-making authority for one's life isn't in his hands. And without that, we are mere machines, right?
yeah.
So that gives a clear idea of the freedom that business offers us.
Wow. That's a new perspective of looking at business. Gokul, though business is providing freedom as you are saying right now, there's no structured method for income as soon as a new business is begun, right? Isn't that a huge risk to take?
So it is actually okay to live with meager income for the first 2 years than to financially suffer for the decades together. So there is a difference actually between being poor and being broke. Broke is actually temporary, while poor is eternal. So the income or profit actually grows exponentially once the business becomes stable. So the best part is that business generates money for us, even when we aren't physically there. So
Yeah.
money works for us, and we retire upon our wish.
Wait, so what will we do without income for rest of our lives?
No, I think basically you are asking this question simply because I have said the word retire. No,
Yeah.
retirement actually doesn't mean not working.
Okay.
For us, it means that either if you work or not work, our wealth grows automatically, staying ahead of inflation.
Okay.
But it is so coming back to the track, but it is risky only when you don't have any solid foundation on financial literacy. No, it is like testing the depth of the river by taking in 2 legs. It is even riskier to stay broke and caged for decades together until you retire. So humans actually look at the short-term needs and end up having long-term problems. The job and money both are temporary solutions to a permanent problem. Basically, financial intelligence solves problems, neither money nor job does.
That was well said.
Now, financial intelligence solves problems by making us look for a way of attaining financial independence.
Mm.
So, so what is financial independence? No, it is by far the most misconceived term. People think that having a high-paid job makes us financially independent, simply because we have enough money to meet our expenses. But that is actually the case.
Then, what does financial independence actually mean?
Actually, when you're working at a job, you don't have the surety that you will be there forever, right?
Yeah.
So that means you are one step away from being financially broken. So
Mm-hmm.
how will you be able to manage your expenses without an active income from the job? This applies to a businessman as well. In case of insolvency, when his only income is from the business.
Wait, what does insolvency mean?
It is actually a financial distress involved basically because of not being able to pay in debt. So to
Okay.
manage your financial position, you need a solid foundation on financial literacy. So
Mm.
financial independence is when you are able to sustain yourself and meet expenses without an active income from your job. So the
Okay.
next question will obviously be about how to achieve it, right?
Yeah.
So it is actually simple. Apart from your active income, you need passive income and portfolios that can outweigh your expenses.
Google, can you elaborate on what is passive income and portfolios?
Passive income basically can be a royalty for the books you write, say rental property or arches, which doesn't involve you actively like the job does.
Okay.
So portfolios are investments in the form of cash, bonds, and stocks, and
Mm.
even precious metals like silver and gold,
Okay.
whose value appreciates as the time passes by,
Mm.
capital appreciation.
Okay.
So coming back to the track, these are termed to be assets, which increase your cash flow each month. When they
Okay.
are actually capable of balancing out your expenses each month, that's when you become financially independent. So the rest of which you earn, say from an active job or business, is adding to your net worth now, and you will
Mm.
eventually be rich over the years.
But usually a normal job also can get you these assets, right? Then why business?
Yes, of course, a job can get you this, but a job doesn't provide you enough income to buy these assets often. So it takes
Oh,
years to purchase assets, and that is a very slow process that proceeds in infinitely small steps. While the income
mm,
from the business, as I said, grows exponentially over the years, and the process of buying assets can be rapid.
true.
So financial independence is best served when you run a business with a solid foundation of financial literacy. Many people are actually lacking it.
Do you feel even the well-educated people lack the knowledge on financial literacy?
Yes, of course, they are the main part of it. I
Oh.
strongly believe in education, but I don't recommend the course of study followed by our education system.
Mm.
So one of the main reasons the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and the middle class struggles in debt is that the subject of money is taught at home, not in school. So
Okay.
basically, what can poor parents tell the children about money? They
Mm.
simply say stay in school and study hard. The
Yeah.
child may actually graduate with excellent grades, but with a poor person's financial programming and mindset. That is where most educated people fall into.
True.
The sad thing is that money is not taught in school. Schools focus on scholastic and professional skills, but not on financial skills. College degree isn't enough to make you wealthy.
Mm.
Self-learning will pay you the best returns in the long run. There is actually a lot to learn in the financial sector. Learning how to have money work for you is a lifetime study. Most people never study the subject. Most people go to college for 4 years and their education ends. So if you want to learn to work for money, then stay in school. That is actually a great place to learn to do that. But if you
Okay.
want to learn how to have money work for you, you need to learn about finances.
Okay.
Now, I actually know that my study of money will continue over my lifetime.
Mm.
Simply because the more I find out, the more I find out I need to know.
Okay.
So that is what we call as true learning. True learning
Mm.
actually takes energy, passion, and a burning desire. So this actually highlights the code. The more you learn, the more you earn. And yes,
Mm.
that is the most essential subject of all, in my perspective. So it is necessary that we teach each and every individual, just enough to take care of their finances.
That's an eye opener there. The more you learn, the more you earn.
And basically, there is also a time factor that most people don't consider.
Okay.
That is what I said, time efficiency.
Mm.
Time and tide waits for none. So time is an important aspect of every person's life. Owning
Okay.
and running a business saves your time in every possible way.
Now that we are talking about time efficiency, business is a field where people must constantly spend over time to have good growth and development, right? So, how can you say that it is time efficient then?
This is basically one of the most common misconceptions that is prevailing among the people. I just say this whenever I go.
Mm.
wherever I go. So
Okay.
business doesn't require a presence forever. Once a
Mm.
business becomes stable, you can have a much smarter person employed to take care of the business, and you are now free from actually day-to-day decision making.
Okay.
But the time that it takes to become stable depends on efficiency of the businessman.
Mm.
Though it consumes time initially, it saves your time in ways that you wouldn't have looked upon.
The ways you wouldn't have looked upon, that means?
Well, I will actually start with an example. Say
Okay.
a man with a net salary of 40,000 rupees wants to buy a phone, say worth
Mm.
20,000 rupees. He is
Okay.
almost trading 15 days of his life for a commodity.
True.
With a branded phone, car, and a bike being a socially acceptable margin, we tend to
Mm.
buy them to show off to the society, that we are keeping our go with them. And we end up trading years of life to get accepted by the society. That might be conscious or unconscious.
Yeah,
So,
true.
though a high-paid job can reduce the amount of time that you trade for money, it is still consuming your time completely, right? Because it
Yeah.
simply wants your presence forever.
Mm.
You cannot trade time for money. There isn't anything as common as a common man regretting at 60 looking back at this life.
Okay.
So a 9 to 5 person doesn't have time for a healthy workout and diet. Now we have seen people skipping it often due to workload,
Yeah.
and they don't even have enough time for spending quality time with with his or family.
Mm.
As a result, he actually gets trapped in his expenses over healthcare and necessities without having enough to save, and again waits from paycheck to paycheck, with the hope that it might solve his problems. Well, the reality is actually slapping him hard. So this is what we
Mm.
call as a rat race that runs the whole world.
That is so true.
And when you value the business and financial literacy, they value your time, and you become
Mm.
the master of money. While a man who does values money often ends up being a slave to it. No, it is actually a solid example of the quote that money is an excellent servant and a terrible master.
That's an excellent point you've made here, Goku. Money is an excellent servant, but a terrible master. So, do you feel that time should be the prime objective of a business?
Yes, of course. No, it indeed is. It is as
Mm.
important as freedom. In the end, all that matters is how well did you live. So the
Yeah.
one who masters his time masters his life. So always have a higher value for time than money.
Mm.
And there's this one special category that we call as tax efficiency. That actually gives a very vast advantage to the rich
Mm.
than the poor and middle class. So the tax is
Okay.
basically originated from the Robin Hood theory of economics. Have you read the Merry Adventures of Robin Hood?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, the main character Robin Hood actually steals from the rich and gives to the poor, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, it is this ideal that has caused the most pain for the poor and the middle class. The reason the middle class is so heavily taxed is because of this ideal. So the
Okay.
reality is that rich are actually not taxed much. It is
Mm.
the middle class, especially the educated upper income middle class, who pays for food, poor. So
Okay.
tax was made popular and accepted by the majority by telling that the poor and the middle class that taxes were created only to punish the rich.
Mm.
This is how the masses voted for the law and it became constitutionally legal.
Okay.
But once the government got a taste of money, its appetite grew.
Mm.
But the problem was that the government's appetite for money was so great that taxes soon need to be levied upon middle class. And from there, it actually kept trickling down.
That's not sad, actually. Um, by the way, if the income of businessmen is raising, then they also should pay more taxes, isn't it? Like, how does that become beneficial for a businessman?
It actually breaks down to financial literacy, as I said. No, it is
Okay.
actually the knowledge of legal corporate structure that gives
Mhm.
the rich a vast advantage over the poor and the middle class. Corporation is basically a legal document that creates a legal body. Using
Hmm.
it, the wealth of the rich is actually protected. It is
Okay.
popular because the income tax rate of a corporation is less than the individual income tax rates. In addition,
Oh,
certain expenses could be paid by a corporation with pre-tax dollars.
what does pre-tax dollars mean?
Well, actually, businessmen pay the taxes levied upon them at the end. So the money
Okay.
that is flowing in their hand is in pre-tax, right?
Oh,
So that's what we mean by pre-tax dollars. People who don't take advantage of these legal tax saving methods are actually missing a great opportunity to build their asset columns.
Hmm.
Now, rich basically hire smart attorneys and accountants and persuade politicians to change laws or even create legal loopholes.
Isn't using such loopholes illegal?
No, no, they aren't. That's why I carefully use the word legal loopholes. Say, for
Okay.
example, the fact that the income tax rate of a corporation is less than the individual income tax rate can be considered as a legal loophole, right?
Yeah.
So there are several other examples to prove the point that there are such legal loopholes that the rich use it to their advantage. They use their resources to actually bring about minimal taxes.
Then why is it that people belonging to the poor and middle class can't figure this out?
They basically can't view it because of weak foundation of financial literacy.
Okay.
The harder they work, the more they pay the government. While the
Hmm.
poor and middle class don't even see the entire income, as the taxes are actually directed even before it enters their hands. That is what we call as tax deduction at source. The common term TDS.
Okay.
So to give you a clear example of why the poor and the middle class are struggling financially, let's do some
Hmm.
math.
Okay.
Say you are working 100% in a job.
Hmm.
Effectively you are getting paid for 70% of your work. If you are in a 30% tax slab.
Okay.
So out of your entire 40 years career, say you work for 40 years, okay?
Hmm.
So that is what basically people do. So you
Okay.
work 12 years of the 12 years of your life, just for government.
Oh.
If you add 4% cess, 18% GST, because GST is now common for every penny you spend, and
Yeah.
let's say we add other taxes too. So you are almost working 50% of your life for the government, knowingly or unknowingly. So it is actually a clear indication of job eating away not just your time, but also your efforts and money. Thus, the
Hmm.
financial literate have a tax advantage, while those who aren't financial literate are burdened by taxes. Once again, it ends
Okay.
up being into financial literacy.
So all the differences are caused because of financial literacy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Considering these aspects, we definitely can say why business is worth the challenges and the hardships that one faces.
So overall, is this the reason for the common saying, rich get richer while the poor get poorer?
Yeah, exactly. You got my point. Don't you
Hmm.
think these four factors can put yourself in a much better financial position than being at a job? No, as you
Yeah.
said, there is more risk in business. No, I would now like to conclude that risk and reward are proportional. Would you agree with that now?
Yes, I totally agree with you. Taking a risk by starting a business when you're passionate about it is worth it. As you said earlier, being broke is temporary, but being poor is eternal. By this time of our podcast, we have realized that money should not be the goal of life. With this, we have come to the end of episode 1. Thank you everyone for watching. To learn more about business and finances, stay tuned with us. This is InfoPort signing off.